Good evening, one. Good evening, all. Good evening, everybody. Tis I, your boy Al Johnson from the Al Johnson Show. Thank you all for being here today. And I guess you can call this a new tale or this new episode in this unofficial series. I guess you could call it Tales of a Unhappy Wrestling Fan or Unsatisfied, whatever you want to call it. I haven't really figured out the kink and the kink there. But yeah, I guess in this I haven't really figured that out yet. So give me a moment with the title. But for this one, I thought this would be an interesting thing to watch. I came across something that I thought, ooh, seems very intriguing to watch. So this right here is from the YouTube channel known as WrestleMafia, which I like the name. I like the name. I like the name of the channel. That's a nice one. And this one is quite interesting. The title is Why WWE Was Better Under Vince McMahon. Now, initially, I was reactionary to it. It's like, what? What? Are you serious? But then I thought about it. I was like, well, let me watch or react to this video to have some context. Maybe there might be in here that maybe I'm not understanding, because yes, for a period of time, Vince was running WWE better than what Triple H is doing. But like Vince near the end, before he was ousted for legal reasons, no, absolutely not. Granted, Triple H, he's no better off than Vince, but I'd rather Triple H than Vince during like the later years before he was ousted. But let me see what WrestleMafia has to say. He has quite a number of interesting topics I might want to take a look at. But for this one, we're gonna start off with this one. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is my reaction to why WWE was better under Vince McMahon. Let's see if the person is right or not. Y'all ready? And here we go.
For 40 years, Vince McMahon was the most powerful man in professional wrestling. He turned WWE from a small regional promotion into a global entertainment empire that millions all over the world loved and enjoyed. His era gave us names like Hogan, The Rock, Undertaker, and John Cena, who became household names, along with shocking moments and storylines that became core childhood memories. However, scandals and legal troubles forced him to step down in 2022, and when Triple H took over creative, fans were optimistic. After all, this was the man who had rebuilt NXT from a game show into the most exciting brand in wrestling. And honestly, during Vince's final years, the storylines had gotten weird, and the product desperately needed fresh energy. But after almost 4 years of this Triple H experiment, many fans have reached an uncomfortable conclusion. WWE was better under Vince McMahon. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't always good, but it was better under Vince. And as someone who's been watching wrestling for almost 3 decades, I want to break down exactly why that is.
It's not nostalgia.
Vince McMahon understood something fundamental about professional wrestling that Triple H seems to have forgotten. Fans don't come to WWE shows to watch gymnastic routines. They come to see larger-than-life characters doing larger-than-life things. I mean, think about the names that defined Vince's era. The Undertaker was an undead phenom who had supernatural powers and couldn't be beat at WrestleMania. Kane was a 7-foot monster who set people on fire and chokeslammed anyone who looked in his direction. The Rock was the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, and even saying that phrase out loud gives you an instant picture of exactly who he was. Stone Cold Steve Austin was a working-class anti-hero who drank beer, flipped off his boss, and fought authority at every turn. Hulk Hogan was almost a mythological figure, a walking embodiment of American heroism. These weren't just wrestlers, they were icons. They felt like they came from another planet entirely, and that's the point. When you heard their music hit, you didn't just know their name, you knew their entire world, their motivations, their personality, their history. You were invested before they even threw a single punch. Now think about some of Triple H's top stars today. Bronson Reed is a big guy. Carmelo Hayes is athletic. Austin Theory is jacked. These are fine professional wrestlers. But ask yourself honestly, when you hear those names, what picture forms in your head? What emotion do you feel? What is the one thing about them that makes them different and makes you care? The answer is nothing. Because Triple H's era has prioritized work rate over character. The mentality seems to be that if you can wrestle a 25-minute match and hit all the right spots, you deserve a spot on the card. And while that might satisfy hardcore fans who track star ratings on the internet, it does absolutely nothing for the millions of casual viewers who tune into Raw and SmackDown each week. Wrestling fans don't fall in love with movesets and gymnastic routines. They fall in love with characters and stories. Randy Orton didn't become a legend because he could do submission holds and flips. He became a legend because he was a sadistic viper who had no moral code and no limits. The legend killer gimmick gave him a reason to exist, a story to tell, enemies who mattered. Triple H himself didn't become a main event player because of his matches. It was because of his DX antics, his feuds with The Rock and HBK, his obsession with doing everything it took from marrying the boss's daughter to betraying his best friend to get to the top of the industry. The irony is brutal. The man who benefited most from character-driven storytelling is now running a company that has abandoned it entirely. And until WWE rediscovers what made stars like Taker, Hogan, and Austin iconic, no amount of 5-star matches will fill the void. They will just be forgotten a week later. Which brings us to an underrated skill Vince possessed that Triple H completely lacks. One of the most underrated skills in professional wrestling is timing. Knowing exactly when a performer has caught lightning in a bottle and making sure you push them at the right moment. Vince McMahon had that instinct. Triple H does not. When Steve Austin's popularity exploded during the Attitude Era, Vince didn't pump the brakes and rely on older stars. He put Austin in the main event, built the entire company around his war with authority, and the result was the most profitable era in wrestling history. When John Cena started connecting with audiences in 2005, Vince handed him the championship and made him the face of the company. When the Shield was running roughshod over the entire roster in 2013, Vince let them rampage because he understood that organic momentum is the most valuable thing in this business. You can't manufacture it. You just have to be smart enough to recognize it and bold enough to run with it. Triple H has shown he's capable of neither. LA Knight is the most glaring example.
Yeah.
From mid-2023 through 2025, Knight was arguably the most organically overperformer on the entire roster. Every arena erupted the moment his music hit. Fans were practically screaming at Triple H to give this man a world title program. And what did he do? He handed Knight mid-card feuds, a United States Championship run that felt like a consolation prize, and by the time any real opportunity came his way, the moment had already passed. The fever had broken. Had Hunter trusted Knight and given him the ball to run with, it could have led to him challenging Cody, Cody turning heel, and an epic corporate champion versus rebel babyface feud, reminiscent of Rock versus Austin, which could have led to one of the hottest periods for WWE. Instead, he kept Knight in the mid-card and had Cody feuding with the same 3 opponents for months. And speaking of Cody, it took Triple H 2 full years to pull the trigger on the Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton feud. Instead of giving us another boring babyface Cody run, Cody could have turned on his old mentor and became the biggest heel on the roster. But Triple H isn't interested in taking risks or building stars. He wants to keep renting them. He wants to rely on the retirement matches of John Cena and AJ Styles to make his shows important. Brock Lesnar and AJ Lee get flown in to fill the Mania card because Triple H had an entire year and still couldn't write one solid story that made fans care about Mania. Leaning on old legends as your primary source of star power is an admission that you have failed to create any of your own. Triple H is running a company that is living entirely off the legacy of the man he replaced, and it won't be long before he runs out of nostalgia bait to keep the show afloat. Which brings us to the biggest difference between Vince and Triple H's WWE shows. Vince McMahon's WWE at times was absolutely terrible, genuinely unwatchable. The 2019 product with Roman Reigns eating dog food, the Bobby Lashley, Rusev, and Lana love triangle, the endless Baron Corbin segments, it was a chore to sit through, and that's an important thing to acknowledge because this isn't about pretending Vince was flawless. But here's the difference. When Vince was bad, he was spectacularly bad, and when he was good, it changed the world. The Attitude Era didn't just make wrestling popular, it made wrestling the hottest thing in America. Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon was must-see television for people who had never watched a single match in their life. DX made every Monday night feel like anything could happen. The Undertaker and Kane terrified children and fascinated adults simultaneously. These were moments that broke out of wrestling's bubble entirely and became part of mainstream entertainment conversation. Even in later years, the peaks were special. WrestleMania 28 gave us The Rock versus John Cena in a feud that had the whole world talking. The Yes Movement, the Summer of Punk, the Rise of the Shield. These are all moments that had the attention of the entire world. Even when the rest of the year was terrible, Vince would swing for the fences and occasionally hit a home run that changed everything. The product had range. It was unpredictable in a way that made it impossible to fully stop watching, even during its low points. But Triple H's WWE operates in a completely different gear. It is relentlessly mid. Not good, not bad, just mid. 4 matches per pay-per-view, each around 20 minutes, all technically good, but none particularly memorable. He plays it safe constantly, seemingly terrified of alienating any segment of the fan base. The handling of shock moments perfectly illustrates this problem. When Brock Lesnar ended The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania 30, it was one of the most controversial decisions in wrestling history. Fans were genuinely upset, but something real came out of it. Lesnar became the most feared name in wrestling overnight. He carried that moment as currency for the next 4 years. He became an unstoppable monster that nobody could touch. One shocking decision created years of momentum for the beast that he's still banking on today. Now compare that to John Cena's heel turn. One of the most talked about moments of 2025, it set the internet on fire for a week. Then it got wasted and then quietly retconned without any explanation or payoff. It was just a moment designed to trend on Twitter and generate short-term buzz before Triple H pivoted to the next distraction. Or look at Gunther retiring both Cena and AJ Styles, 2 of the biggest names in wrestling history. On paper, that should be the making of a legitimate monster, a new era-defining villain. Instead, heading into WrestleMania, there is no clear direction for what Gunther's story even is. That is the fundamental difference between Vince and Triple H. Vince trusted his instincts, took huge risks, and sometimes crashed spectacularly. But when he landed, he changed wrestling forever. Triple H doesn't believe in his own decisions long enough to let them breathe. He's constantly second-guessing and pivoting before any idea has a chance to develop. The highs were higher under Vince, and honestly, even the lows were more entertaining. This brings us to WWE's biggest irony today. In Triple H's WWE, the production is cleaner, the camera work is more professional, and the overall presentation is slicker. On a purely technical level, Raw and SmackDown look premium. But here's the problem. Polish without personality is just mediocrity in high definition. During Vince's era, each show had its own distinct identity. Raw felt aggressive and loud. SmackDown had its own rhythm, its own roster, its own reason to exist. Pay-per-view events felt like genuine occasions because the branding, the atmosphere, and the stakes all felt unique. Each show from SummerSlam to Cyber Sunday to Armageddon had a visual signature that told you exactly what kind of night you were in for. Under Triple H, everything blurs together. Raw, SmackDown, and the various premium live events all carry the same aesthetic, the same pacing, the same tone. Saturday night's main event is indistinguishable from a regular episode of Raw. WrestleMania doesn't feel different from a standard pay-per-view anymore because of all the stadium events throughout the year. And then there are the entrance themes. Under Vince, a wrestler's music was part of their identity. Stone Cold's Glass Shatter. The Undertaker's Gong. These themes were character extensions. They told you everything about who was walking through that curtain before you even saw their face. Triple H's WWE has largely handed music duties to producers churning out generic, forgettable tracks that all sound like variations of the same template. Wrestlers themselves have publicly complained about it, and yet nothing changes. The result is a show that looks expensive but lacks soul. And this brings us to the biggest factor that separated Vince McMahon from Triple H. For all of Vince McMahon's flaws, he understood one thing clearly. The wrestling ring is sacred. It deserves respect. That respect has been completely abandoned under Triple H.
Sponsors.
Walk into a WWE event today, and the first thing you notice is everything plastered with sponsor logos. From the ring to the Money in the Bank briefcase, what was once a clean, iconic presentation has been turned into a billboard. Vince ran a commercial enterprise too, but he understood that the moment your ring starts looking like a NASCAR vehicle, you have crossed a line that undermines the entire product's credibility. But the advertising is just the beginning of how Triple H has turned his back on the fans who built this company, because ticket prices have reached levels that would have seemed unthinkable even 5 years ago. WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas features floor seats priced at nearly $9,000. The worst seats in the building will cost close to $1,000. These are standard tickets for working families who have followed this product their entire lives and simply want to attend wrestling's biggest night with their wife and kids.